It started, as most things do, with something small. Sarah always hated mornings. She wasn't one of those people who woke up cheerful, ready to conquer the day. No, mornings were slow and groggy, filled with the smell of burnt toast and the sound of the coffee maker sputtering like it might die any second. Her husband, Michael, was the opposite. He'd wake up at 6 a.m. sharp, make his coffee in that stupid mug he loved, the one that said "World's Best Husband," and sit at the kitchen island scrolling through the news on his phone. "Morning," he'd say, without looking up. "Morning," she'd grumble back, reaching for her own mug. It was their routine. Predictable. Comfortable. But on this particular morning, Michael wasn't there. Sarah didn't think much of it at first. She figured he'd slept in or went for a run. She poured herself a cup of coffee, grabbed a slice of toast, and sat at the island where he usually sat. That's when she saw it, his mug. It was still on the counter, the coffee dried into a dark ring at the bottom. "That's weird," she muttered to herself. Michael never left his mug out. He was meticulous about cleaning up. If he made coffee, he washed the mug immediately. It was one of those little quirks she used to tease him about. She grabbed the mug and held it under the faucet, letting the water wash the stain away. She didn't know why, but she didn't put it back in the cabinet. Instead, she left it on the counter, next to the fruit bowl. If you want to know what happened next, make sure you're subscribed. I post stories like this every week. The next few days were normal. At least, they seemed normal. Michael went to work, came home, and they watched TV together on the couch. Sarah cooked dinner while he scrolled through Instagram on his phone. They talked about the dog breaking another toy and how they needed to call the plumber because the kitchen sink was leaking again. But there was something different. Sarah couldn't quite put her finger on it. It wasn't anything big. Just little things. Like the way he'd suddenly start texting more often during dinner. Or how he'd disappear into the garage for hours, saying he was organizing tools, but never actually bringing anything back inside. One night they were sitting on the couch watching The Office. Sarah reached for his hand, but he pulled away, pretending to scratch his nose. "You're acting weird," she said, trying to sound casual. "I'm fine," he replied, not looking at her. She wanted to push it, but she didn't. Instead, she leaned back against the couch and stared at the TV, pretending to laugh at Michael Scott's antics. A week later, Sarah was at Target picking up groceries. She was standing in the pasta aisle, debating between spaghetti and penne, when her phone buzzed. It was a Venmo notification. Michael had just sent someone $20. The name was unfamiliar, Emily.R. Sarah stared at her phone, her hand tightening around the handle of her shopping cart. Who was Emily? She tried to brush it off. Maybe it was a co-worker. Maybe he owed her money for lunch. But something about it felt off. She put the penne in her cart and headed for the checkout, her mind racing. That night, Sarah brought it up casually, hoping he'd explain it away. "Who's Emily?" she asked, setting her plate down on the table. Michael froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. "Emily?" he repeated, his voice too casual. "Oh, she's just a co-worker. She paid for my coffee the other day, so I sent her the money back." Sarah nodded, pretending to believe him. But she didn't. She couldn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying every strange moment from the past few weeks. The mug left on the counter. The text during dinner. The $20 Venmo. It didn't add up. The next morning, Sarah woke up early. She waited until Michael left for work, then she grabbed his iPad from the nightstand. She didn't know what she was looking for, but she knew she had to look. She opened his messages. There were dozens of texts from Emily. Sarah's heart sank as she scrolled through them. "Emily, I can't stop thinking about last night." "Michael, me either." "Emily, what are we doing?" "Michael, I don't know. But I can't stop." Sarah felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. She dropped the iPad on the bed and walked into the bathroom, locking the door behind her. She sat on the edge of the bathtub, staring at the tile floor, trying to breathe. How could he do this? If this story hit close to home, share it. And subscribe if you haven't yet. New story dropping soon. Sarah didn't confront him right away. Instead, she started paying closer attention. She noticed the way he'd come home from work smelling like perfume, not hers. The way he'd startle whenever she walked into the room. The way he'd avoid her eyes whenever she tried to talk about their future. One night, she found a receipt in his jacket pocket. It was from a fancy restaurant downtown, a place they'd never been to together. She held it in her hand, staring at the date. It was from last Friday. The night he told her he was working late. Finally, she confronted him. They were sitting at the kitchen island, the same spot where he used to drink his coffee every morning. "Who's Emily?" she asked, her voice trembling. Michael looked at her for a long moment, then sighed. "Sarah," he began, but she cut him off. "Don't," she said. "Just tell me the truth." He looked down at his hands, guilty. "She's someone I work with," he said quietly. "We've been seeing each other." Sarah felt like she'd been stabbed. "How long?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "A few months," he admitted. She sat there, staring at him, trying to process it. A few months. They'd been lying in bed together, going to Target together, watching The Office together, and this whole time, he'd been. She couldn't even finish the thought. After that, everything changed. Michael moved out the next day. Sarah stayed in the house, surrounded by the life they'd built together. She threw out the things that reminded her of him, his clothes, his toothbrush, his favorite snacks. But she couldn't bring herself to throw out the mug. It still sat on the counter, next to the fruit bowl, like it was waiting for him to come back. She didn't know why she kept it. She just did. Months passed. Sarah tried to move on. She went on dates, redecorated the house, even got a new job. But no matter what she did, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. One night, she was scrolling through Instagram when she saw a photo of Michael and Emily. They were at a concert, smiling like they didn't have a care in the world. Sarah stared at the photo, her chest tightening. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to be angry. But all she felt was sadness. The last time she saw Michael was at Starbucks. She was standing in line, waiting for her latte, when she heard his voice behind her. "Sarah?" She turned around, startled. "Hey," she said, forcing a smile. "How are you?" he asked, looking at her like he actually cared. "I'm good," she lied. They stood there for a moment, awkwardly, either of them knowing what to say. Finally, Michael broke the silence. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For everything." Sarah nodded, tears stinging her eyes. "Me too," she said. Then the barista called her name, and she grabbed her latte and walked out, leaving him standing there. Now Sarah sits at the kitchen island, staring at the mug. The stain is back, darker than before. She doesn't know why she still has it. She doesn't know why she can't throw it away. She just knows that every time she looks at it, she feels something she can't explain. Something between anger and grief and love. She picks up the mug, runs her finger over the crack in the handle, and sets it back down on the counter. Subscribe for more stories like this. And leave a comment. I read everyone.